5.
Let's start off by telling you a bit about myself. I am only 15 years old. My dad always moans at me, says why can't I be like normal children who go to the park or play football? But you see, I have a different kind of hobby. My hobby is computers. I've always been fascinated and enjoyed hacking. I think it's because I see it as a mental challenge, them versus I. My obsession with computers grew year by year. One of my more recent and disturbing hobbies has been exploring the dark web. Don't get the wrong idea, I don't go on a deep web to find CP and snuff films. I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I explore the deep web for the joy of finding new websites. I just find these brand new and bizarre websites so cool. They're unique from anything I can find on the normal internet. To me, the creativity on the deep web is far more superior than the dark creativity I can find on the normal internet. I find these websites and then list them in alphabetical order for my own personal enjoyment. It feels like I'm actively discovering new parts of an ever-growing planet, or at least the dark side of one. Now, most parts of the deep web are full of links taking you to places where you can buy drugs, snuff films, and even hitmen sites. Yep, you heard that right. You can even hire a hitman that could kill anyone you desire. Now, onto the more interesting dark stuff. There was one site that I found after hours of browsing and clicking away. It was instantly strange to me. There were listings of objects. Normal kind of objects such as bracelets, rings, etc. Nothing that would make you jump out of your seat. But what would puzzle me is the price of the objects. They were all over $5,000. Why so expensive for objects that you could buy in the shops for under $200? It then hit me that these weren't no normal objects. These were memorabilias. I'm going to tell you the chilling description word for word of this gold engagement ring that was on sale for $12,000. Hello, lucky buyer. This ring belonged to a beautiful ginger lady. I stalked her for 1 month. She smelled so beautiful like roses, and her blood was of pure innocence. I saw her walking back one night down this lonely dark road and thought to myself, I have to have her. I crept up behind her slowly, step by step, edging closer. She had no idea I was even there. She gasped and kept kicking as I put chloroform over her face. There's nothing better than the smell of fear. I was laughing at her attempts to break free. She must have thought for about 6 minutes before I just picked up her lifeless body and took her to my van. She now belonged to me. For just $12,000 at a bargain price, you could get to have the ring and also the finger that comes with it. The finger belonged to a white female that was in her early 20s. It makes for a perfect memorabilia that would look lovely in any home. You can also buy other parts of her body such as her breasts in other listings, so please check them out. I was shocked and disgusted at what I read, but at the same time I was amazed by the amount of views these kind of sick memorabilias were actually attracting. One listing actually had a video attached to the description proving that the listing was genuine. A man said, "No fakes here," a man said, as he showed the objects being cut from this female as she was still alive. You could see the pure pain in her eyes as she screamed in agony, and then the man just wiped her blood all over the memorabilia. He then instantly bagged it up and put it in a freezer. There was no emotion in the man's face. It was like a butcher cutting away at the meat to sell to his customers. I found that just as disturbing in how a person could do something so cruel yet show no emotion. I've heard of some dark stuff happening on the deep web, but seeing this for myself just blew me away. I felt disgusted in myself and how my obsession with anything bizarre led me to such a dark path. But what really disturbed me was I actually wanted to find such inhumane sights. I searched deeper into the dark web until I found it, and when I finally did find it, it made me realise how inhumane I myself actually was. I tried to sleep that night, but all I kept thinking was that some sick bastard would actually be willing to spend big money just so he could own the most disturbing of memorabilia. There are even sicker bastards though, that would be willing to kill someone in the most cruel and barbaric ways just so they could make money. The man who did the killing didn't even look like he was enjoying himself. It's not that I wanted to see him enjoy cutting people up, but at least then I could understand that he's just a nutcase that has a thrill in cutting people up. This guy was just pure cold. That's what made him even scarier. He could be a normal kind of family guy that you would see walking down the road. The difference is, your job might be working in an office, and his job is cutting people up and selling their body parts on the dark web. My curiosity with the darkness has now faded away. I just live in pure regret over what I witnessed on that cold night. Maybe my dad was right. I'm not normal. I'm not like normal children. Number 4. We all asked some questions on the Ouija board that only the person asking would know the answer to. The spirit would answer the questions. One question that somebody asked was, "What was the name of the boat I went on a cruise on when I was 6? It answered. We played with this thing forever. We had cold spot experiences and would place a candle where the cold spot was, and the candle would burn sideways, not straight up and down. One night we all asked how long we had left to live, and this is where it gets scary. Everybody asked, and they had 50 to 60 years left. I go to ask it, and it says 10. I ask, 10 years? And it says days. I pretty much shit a brick at this point. It said I was going to be killed in a car accident by a girl named Emma. We would ask it 3 days later, and it would say I have 7 days left. Ask it again 2 days later, and it would say I have 5 days left, and so on. I'm freaking out at this point, carrying a Bible in my pocket and wearing a big cross. I finally tell my dad, and he doesn't believe me. So I made an Ouija board out of a piece of paper and used a CD to show him. It worked, and he flipped out and told me that I don't have to go to school the day I was supposed to die. I didn't go to school, and nothing happened, thank God. Number 3. I used to play with the Ouija board many years ago, but wised up pretty quickly. To me, it's like opening your front door and putting up a banner inviting anyone in. Don't then be surprised if your stuff gets stolen and someone pisses on your houseplants. My experiences were that it began with extremely accurate information, stuff that I didn't know and had to ask my mother about. Then after a short time it started to mess with my friend and I, threatening us and generally mocking us. Well, after that, my friend, who was a bit unbalanced, became the centre of attention. Weird things happened, often in front of me. For a couple of months, she had things move around her room, knocking and strange sounds. I saw her put a framed photo of her grandparents on her bedside cabinet. She then walked past me and out of the room. When she returned, the photo had moved about a foot. She had a fridge in her room and had magnets on the door, spelling out her boyfriend's name. We sat there once watching them move. It wasn't gravity because they were fanning out. I was sitting on her sofa when I heard what sounded like a huge bird flapping its wings, coming from the corner of the room. A day or so later, I heard a papery whoosh, as if a large poster had fallen off the wall. In both cases, there was nothing there. I also had nightmares, plus myself and my then boyfriend saw the face on a picture change. We ended up having to turn the photo the other way around because it freaked us out. There were also many times when a window in an empty room would open and close. The only thing I can think of is whatever it was that came through the board saw my friend as an easy target because she wasn't batting on a level field. Number 2. I have no evidence and I do not care if you don't believe me. I've used an Ouija board with results and let something into my home and have been physically assaulted by this entity. It started out with the feeling like you're being watched and doors closing and footsteps on the hardwood when you were home alone, and progressed slowly into being kept awake by something shaking the bed or pulling off your covers, sometimes even whispering your name. The board would disappear for days on end and then show up in places I would never have put it. I became obsessed with it. Then I saw a black mass in the corner of the room, or the silhouette of a man watching me from the doorway. After that it escalated pretty quickly. I had my hair pulled, fingers pricked, scratched and even choked. I was even held down in my bed while this thing whispered in my ear in what could have only been Latin. We had our house blessed, and this bad thing hasn't shown up since. Just a normal occurrences now, but I will never again play with one of those boards. Number 1. At the age of 6, when my grandpa died, I've been seeing a figure in my closet. It wasn't a shadow like, it was more of an angel. It wasn't glowing, but it was white. It stood at the foot of my closet, and if I rubbed my eyes, my closet door would be shut. I always left the door open, and I guessed the figure must have shut it. I thought it was my grandpa, so I turned on my light the next night and waited. I was sitting there for almost 20 minutes, and right before I decided to try to go to sleep, my shadow started moving. I looked at the wall and rubbed my eyes. My shadow was moving. I couldn't hear anything, but it was writing something with its hands. I thought about it, and for some reason I could tell it was saying, "I'm sorry." I thought it was a dream, or I was imagining things, as none of my siblings believed me. I've always heard, "I'm sorry," every time I go to sleep. Then I had a dream about 2 years later. It was me in the hospital at night. I saw my grandpa sitting in one of the chairs crying and explaining to the nurse, saying, "I killed him. It's my fault." The nurse was comforting him. I walked up to try and talk, but it was like I wasn't there, as neither of them could hear me. My grandpa got up and walked into one of the rooms. I heard him whispering, "I'm sorry," almost as if he was whispering in my ear. So I followed him into the room, and right before I walked in, I suddenly woke up.